Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Happy Monday, everybody. Today, Venus in the sign of Libra is making a square with Jupiter in the sign of Cancer. They actually squared perfectly late last night into this morning, depending on your time zone. So you may have been feeling this transit over the weekend, but we will also be experiencing it today to start our week, as well as the next couple of days as the two planets gradually separate. So that is what we're looking at today. I'm going to give you a list of 5 things to watch for, and we're going to talk about why this combination of planets tends to be so positive instead of just telling you, here's all of the positive stuff to look for, which I will give you a list of 5 things to watch for, but I also want to explain why. Why, when these two planets get together, do things tend to be so bright and shiny astrologically? And what are some of the shadows that you have to watch for with this combination of planets as well? So anyway, that's our agenda for today. Before we get into it, remember to like and subscribe, hype us, turn on the notification bell for updates. One thing that we would really like help with is subscribers. We're trying to get to 100,000 on the channel by next summer. So if you listen regularly and you're not yet subscribed, please consider clicking that subscribe button. It really helps us grow. You can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. I am very excited because we are in the final moments of our promotion for the upcoming year 1 program. I'm going to be doing promotions a little bit differently going forward right now. When I have multiple promotions happening, what I'm going to do is lead with whatever our big promotion is. And then sometime throughout the episode, I'll drop in the other little promotions. So you'll see how that works today. And I'm hoping it might just decongest the beginning of the episodes a little bit. So yeah, so anyway, our promotion for the day that we're leading with is our first year course, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. Head over to the website, nightlightastrology.com. You're going to get over there, click on the courses page, click on first year course. You can learn everything you need to know about the program here. There's also an informational video about the program, both on that page and tagged on to the end of today's video if you want to learn more. It is a completely immersive, highly transformational program. We're going to take a very deep dive together over the course of a year into ancient Hellenistic astrology. And as we do so, all of the major units of study are broken up with study sessions in between for review. There's a discussion forum staffed with tutors that are there to help you. Everything's recorded, so if you can't attend the live classes, you can follow along at your own pace. You get to keep everything for life. So it's an awesome program, one of 4 years worth of curriculum we have to prepare people who want to practice professionally or who just absolutely love astrology. Either way, it's good with us. At the bottom, you'll find the payment options. And I want to encourage you to use the need-based tuition if it will help you. That allows you to pick within a sliding scale whatever works best for you. And that's important to us because we want to make sure that no one's priced out of studying a sacred topic like astrology. So if that will help you, check it out, and hope to see some of you in class soon. We started November 15th, so it's coming up real quick now. Still time to register though, so do that soon. All right, anyway, let's go over to the real-time clock and let's get me set here on Monday, November 3rd. Here's the transit. You can see just separating today is Venus in Libra from Jupiter in Cancer. So that transit came through early this morning or late last night, depending on your time zone. I'm going to back this up just a couple of days. And what I want you to notice is if you go to Friday, Halloween, October 31st, you're going to see that the two planets were within that 3-degree range. And then as the weekend goes on, they get a little bit closer. Here we can go forward to Saturday. They're within a degree. By Sunday, they're coming together and making that square, again, late last night into today. So some of you may have noticed this taking place over the weekend, and some of you may notice this today. If we stretch it forward, give it 3 degrees of separation, it takes us to Wednesday, November 5th. So the 31st through the 5th would be like a little bit of a broad umbrella under which you may notice the combination of these two planets in general. So given that those two planets are getting together, I've got a list of 5 things to watch for. Again, you may have noticed some of this over the weekend, but for sure today, if not, and in the next couple of days, you may notice these things. But before I go into this list, which is mostly positives because this is the meeting of the two benefics, I want to talk about why these planets, when they get together, tend to be so positive. So both planets, were the lesser benefic in Venus, the greater benefic in Jupiter, were named that way because of their speeds. So sometimes people will say Jupiter's more benefic than Venus. That's not really true. it has more to do with their speeds. And the greater benefic is called greater because it's a superior planet whose speed is slower than the sun and tends to be have a little bit more gravitas because it's so heavy and moves so slow. Venus is a little bit quicker and more dynamic, called the lesser benefic. It really has to do with being an inferior planet, one that moves faster than the sun. So those terms can be a little misleading. Both were planets that were associated with conditions in nature that led to the growth of plants or animal life. So spring, summer, warm, moist days that allow for plants to grow and life to flourish. Both planets were associated with fertility. Jupiter with sperm, Venus with sex. So both planets also have to do with procreation. And when they transit our charts, often the way we experience them is procreative, although it doesn't have to be literal. It can be romantic with Venus, and sometimes with Jupiter. It can be associated with having kids or whatever. But a lot of the time, there's just a sense of life and our projects and our creativity being supported by these transiting planets, the growth of our understanding, our wisdom, the feeling that we're evolving and growing associated with Jupiter, the experience of life being pleasing, enjoyable associated with Venus. Venus with social harmony, Jupiter with allies and people that we share beliefs and goals and visions with. Jupiter rejoiced in the 11th house, a place of groups, friends, community, and allies. Venus in the 5th house of creativity and creative fulfillment. So these two planets, when they get together, have a long history of being thought of as, pretty beneficial. There are some shadows, however, and I'll mention those as we go through our list of 5 things to watch for today. Basically, if I had to put it simply, the shadows boil down to, too much of a good thing. When you get either Venus or Jupiter in excess, you might get things like arrogance with Jupiter or vanity with Venus. You might get overindulgence of pleasure with Venus, or you might get something like inflation or something getting too big with Jupiter. So both of these planets, when they combine, they're not perfect. They sometimes do, especially when they get together, bring in excessiveness. So we'll talk about that as a shadow. But by and large, over my many years of doing astrology, when the benefics trine, when they sextile, when they conjoin, even when they square and oppose, we often see some pretty magnificent significations. Now, it moves pretty quickly. So, Friday the 31st through Wednesday the 5th is less than a week. But during that period of time, there are some things that often happen which can signify a process that's reaching an important point. And so even though they move quickly, sometimes their meeting signifies things that have some history behind them coming to a really nice point of resolution. I'm going to talk about that as well. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. There are 5 things to watch for. And this is like, again, as always with my 5 things to watch for, it's in no particular order, right? All right, here we go. Getting my notes up before me. All right. So the first thing is that if Jupiter represents wisdom and Venus represents women or the feminine, then a Venus-Jupiter combination will often bring up the way of women, the way and wisdom of women. There's so many different ways that we can identify. And I certainly don't mean to say that the feminine and masculine aren't very fluid and live with us in many different ways, in many different bodies and so forth. But if I had to put it, kind of broadly, I would say the path that women walk is a path that has its own unique wisdom, the wisdom of the feminine. You think about the fact that on planet Earth, there have been periods of time in which matriarchal societies have flourished. Women have often been the leaders of a society. What can you imagine what the wisdom? And I'm not an idealist. I can imagine there being problems with anything because problems are part of life on Earth. So I don't go looking for something in the past or in the future to solve the problem of suffering, for example. I try to square up and live with it and recognize it in myself, right? But still, you have to wonder, what would it look like if women were in positions of leadership more prominently right now? Not that women are perfect, again, but that would look very different. the way of wisdom that women embody, that women carry, is its own unique path. And when we follow, like I notice, for example, this is going to sound really cheesy and maybe sort of, I don't know, like it sounds like Full House, like a sitcom from the 90s or something. But there is a way that, my wife and I try to take turns in context, like leading our family and each other. And like, it's like leadership is a shared task in our house. And um, when my wife leads, it's some of the things that I've learned from the way that she leads is she has this phrase that she uses all of the time that says, oh my God, I'm going to forget it. Tend to the living things first. And I think she's come on my channel a bunch in the past. Some of you haven't met her yet, but she hasn't been on for a little bit. But when she talks about the wisdom of plants and plant medicine, she's an herbalist. She talks about tending to the living things first. Like if anything, if she's looking for her checklist for the day, it starts with how are the plants, how are the kids, how are the dogs, how's my husband, how is my own body, and once I've taken care of the living things, then I get on to the, the other things. That's like a mantra for her. She's a double Taurus Cancer rising, so that might be unique to, her own birth chart or whatever. But I frequently see that particular mantra of hers as a kind of Venus-Jupiter signification. The tending to the living things first is devotional, it's nurturing, it's caring, rather than prioritizing an objective or mechanistic way of looking at things. It prioritizes a sensitive, personal, relational way of looking at things. And this Venus-Jupiter combination, Venus in her own dignity in Libra, Jupiter exalted in Cancer, you could almost, if you just sit with it, you can feel the prioritization of living beings that you have relationships with. And the wisest thing, like if we have to ask ourselves every day, what do I do? What am I supposed to do today? What's the wisdom? What are my moral, spiritual imperatives? What responsibilities do I have? A lot of us, kind of unconsciously, we ask ourselves these things. We try to do the best we can. What's the answer from the goddess's perspective? That's what I'm thinking about right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if the way that women walk the earth doesn't come into our consciousness, regardless of how we think about women figuratively, literally, etc. Okay, number 2 is just yes. Saturn associated with no. Jupiter with yes. It's so simple, but so profound. Mars often associated with no and defensiveness, and Venus often also associated with yes. Mars is a little bit more complicated than Saturn with respect to the negation. Saturn just very clearly likes to negate things. But either way, both malefics are often associated with the experience that the cosmos is saying no to us. No, you don't get what you want. You're going to have an obstacle or a roadblock, or you're going to get sick, or there's going to be a lot of work and it's going to take time. And that's part of life. How nice is it when the benefics get together and it's like this, you're sitting at the intersection in traffic and all of a sudden the light turns green, and on your stupid little GPS, the red or orange line on your map vanishes, and suddenly the road opens up and you can drive the speed limit. You're not stuck in the stagnating traffic any longer. That sense that life is opening up. I remember when I was a kid, I remember that song by Tom Cochrane. I think he's Canadian. Life is the Highway. Remember that song? It's like that. Venus and Jupiter get together and it just kind of feels like you're on roller skates. that would look terrible for me. I would fall right on my face. But the green lights, the sense that things are confirming, conspiring, saying yes, opening doors, making connections, finding support or resources, the cosmic thumbs up. This is a common Venus-Jupiter experience, and it could be for something super mundane, like you just have a few things go your way when it comes to scheduling your hair appointment, which is always hard to get, but wow, it just worked out perfectly. One of those times, like a simple example, you have something you really don't want to do, and you're like, okay, what, I've got to go do it. Venus and Jupiter get together in the sky, and suddenly someone else volunteers to do the thing at the school, and they really want to do it. And they ask you if they can take your place, and you're like, oh my God. God and sunny Jesus just smiled on my life. so so when there's just a feeling of something, even something difficult just being removed and you don't have to deal with it. Okay. Thank you. Those, just that little gentle misty shower of blessings, very common Venus Jupiter experience. All right, number 3. Romance, love, luxury, indulgence. This is where you go shopping and you buy that designer handbag or clutch or whatever. I only know the names of these things because of shopping for my wife over 15 years. So, what else? Spending too much on your credit card, overindulgence, going a little too far. Usually I feel like it's food or money. When Venus and Jupiter get together, I'm always tempted to like eat too much, or rather than getting one dessert, me and the families, I say, well, why don't we try all of them? We'll just get 3 desserts and we'll all use spoons and we'll share them. And then we all go home miserable. I'm laying in bed at night wondering why I even exist. My stomach hurts so bad. So you can go too far, you can spend too much. Even like I will say, this is the kind of transit, if you're single and dating, where you can almost like overvalue or overestimate how great someone is, or how good it really is. It's like what rose-colored glasses. That's what I'm looking for. So be careful, because Venus and Jupiter, when they get together, can have you just overestimating how great or special someone or something is, over promising and under delivering. But also, let's be real. When these 2 planets get together, have a fun date night. It's great for, making love. It might be a period of time where, your usual rhythms as a couple or a partner, if you've been in a relationship for a while, shift or change dramatically, and you're making love much more often than you usually do, and you're exploring and trying new things, and it's like, wow, there's a little bit of an awakening, or the fire gets really big for a little while. Those are really special features of Venus Jupiter transits that they may sound simple, but like every relationship needs little injections of excitement, enthusiasm, love. In our house, one of my favorite things that I like to do that feels to me like a symbol for Venus Jupiter are spontaneous dance parties. Now, I can't claim to be the inventor of these. It's definitely my wife. And when this first started happening, it was like my daughter was like a little baby. And I was like, oh yeah, this is fun because she's a baby. But then it's like, no, she's like 10 now and we're still doing them. And I can't say that I have any issue with it. I thought I would get like, I don't know. I just thought it would become more weird as my kids got older. But if you keep doing the same things, so have a spontaneous dance party. It's very Venus Jupiter. All right. Well, as promised, I'm trying to break up some of our promotions a little bit rather than front loading all of them, getting into content a little bit more quickly. So I want to take you over to the website, because speaking of Venus, I have a talk coming up on Venus on November 13th from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. My webinar for the month of November is on the archive of Venus. So if you don't know, if you missed the first part of this series, you don't have to watch them in order. I did a talk on Mercury in September. This is the next talk in the series, and I'm doing it for all of the traditional planets. We're going back to look at the philosophical roots of the planet. This means understanding where Venus comes from philosophically in the early cosmology of ancient astrology. So basically saying all of the planets represented basic ideas about the makeup or nature of reality itself. Understanding how Venus was thought of as like a basic feature of reality is about the philosophical roots of Venus. And once you understand that, everything that we do and say about Venus in practice becomes just a lot richer and deeper. And so I encourage you to come out and learn about how Venus pairs with all of the other planets on the level of the archive, or the philosophical first principle of Venus. This is going to be a great talk for people who are, practitioners, students of astrology, people who want to get to know Venus better. You can't attend live, you get the recording. So I hope to see some of you there. All right, on to number 4. If Venus and Jupiter combine any transit in which they combine, there is often a resolution of relationship karma. The reason for this is that Jupiter was associated with justice. Not a lot of people know that because we think of Saturn as like the lord of time. And yes, insofar as everything's impermanent and every structure, every living thing is going to decay and entropy and reach a limit and die, that's Saturn. But that's not, that kind of karma is about time and process and impermanence. Jupiter is more like the legal system or the courts. And so Jupiter's justice, by the way, if you don't believe me, study Jupiter's transits in your chart. You will be amazed at how many acts of karmic justice or remediation happen through Jupiter's transits. It's not all like unicorns and rainbows with Jupiter. More on that. That'd be a good webinar talk, wouldn't it? Anyway, when Venus and Jupiter get together, the cycles of relationship karma often come to moments of resolution or harvesting. By harvesting, it's like you reap what you sow. Venus and Jupiter contacts may seem on the surface like, well, that should just be like the thumbs up. And you buy a new purse, you make love, you have a good date night, and the women's wisdom is just like raining down from the sky, and like that's it. But wait, because when these two planets get together, there are often moments of karmic justice occurring in relationships. Usually, it's not like Zeus is like chucking thunderbolts from the sign of Cancer, for example, a little bit more likely in, say, Scorpio or Capricorn. But when Jupiter is in that sign of the Great Mother, the deeper emotional truths of our relationships may need to be looked at, or they may come to the surface somehow, and their justice, their wisdom has to speak over a situation, and that can bring karmic resolution to something. It's probably, again, with Jupiter and Cancer, going to be through that kind of great mother wisdom of Jupiter and Cancer. But nonetheless, Venus in Libra is also the sign of the scales and the balance. These two planets can bring a sense of justice or fairness or equality or diplomacy and negotiation, as well as karmic resolution into relationship dynamics. So watch for that, because it's kind of a sneaky one that I think we miss because of how we think of it as so, just like I was saying earlier, like a big, wonderful dessert on date night or whatever. So finally, number 5 is morality versus sensuality. This is another shadow that is often a part of Venus and Jupiter's pairings. You have sensuality with Venus, you have morality with Jupiter. Think about the two together. For example, I grew up a preacher's kid, most of you know. In the Christian church, sexuality is suspect, where morality is praised. Sexuality, sensuality, the material world is looked at as fallen, evil, stained in many spiritual and religious traditions, usually through a sort of fanatical or very narrow-minded lens. Because there are also, usually within most world religions, aspects of the tradition that will go to great lengths to honor the sacredness of the sensual world that we live in, right? But there's always like narrow, sort of fundamentalist, really rigid ways of looking at the sensual, at the material, at the bodily, at the Venusian. And so when Jupiter, and remember right now, Jupiter is in the superior square, which means Jupiter in Cancer could assert itself over Venus and Libra. And for example, it could say something like your duty to family or home or roots or ancestry or to being a good mom is more important than enjoying yourself, right? So the kind of like moral superiority that may try to suppress something that Venus and Libra is up to could come through. You could also see, anytime these two planets get together, just a split between life is meant to be about art and beauty and sensuality and enjoyment and pleasure. We're here to be embodied and we're here to taste and enjoy this beautiful world. On the other hand, morality says, no, you're here to be good. You're here to do the good thing. You're here to make the right thing. You're here to make the right choice. You're here to be wise, not enjoyers. You're here to be lovers of wisdom and high moral virtue, not people who sit around enjoying themselves sensually. Woo, so that you can feel how, but I mean, you and I can sit back and go, well, I don't have any issues with these. Yeah, but like a lot of people do. So, and repression accomplishes nothing. That's in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talking to Arjuna. You can't repress this material world. It doesn't work. Now, the joining of the sensual and the moral was basic to ancient philosophy. Reality is both good, beautiful, just, true, and sensual. And so all of the, like, if we want to know what is good, it's not somehow separate from what is beautiful. And what is true is not separate from what is beautiful. So any way that we might feel these things are divided right now, we might ask ourselves, how can they come together? So we'll leave it there. Some good things to watch for with Venus and Jupiter at the beginning of this week. A lot of other transits taking place this week that are going to be very interesting. We're going to keep our eye on. I think probably chief among them is Mars opposing Uranus this week, which we're going to look at very closely. Jupiter's getting into the trine with Saturn. We've talked about that a little bit. Venus will enter Scorpio, changing dignities and immediately squaring Pluto. So we've got a week packed with transits. We'll be taking a look at a bunch of them. I want to show you, before we end today, I want to show you what is on my altar. It's Monday, so it's what's on your altar. No horoscopes today. We've got more horoscopes to come this week. Sorry, there you go. You can see my guitar. So I have my guitar on my altar this week. Although it's not going to stay there, I'm putting it there today as a prayer because I'm starting a new guitar class. I'm really excited about it. Every year I try to keep studying and learning with my guitar just as a hobby. And so I'm taking a new class, and I know it might sound simple, but it's like, I want God, Goddess, I want the universe to talk to me through this process. I don't want it to just be learning new techniques, and I want there to be a way in which this process teaches me something, enlightens me, helps me grow spiritually. And I think making that intention, whether you're studying astrology or a guitar, is really important. Even if it's just one day, I put my guitar for the day at the foot of my altar and I just offer it up, say, hey, please let even this little interest of mine that seems like just a little hobby be something that can help me grow. Being intentional about small things like that is huge. In my experience, you can't underestimate how powerful it is to do little things like that. Anyway, we'll have another Silent Sunday meeting later this month. I'll advertise that later. My Kickstarter is coming up, annual Kickstarter to support the channel. There'll be tons of really good stuff on sale with that. So more to come. After I sign off, there's an informational video about year one. We start on November 15th. You get a little bit of time. Come join us. Come study with us. My favorite thing about our programs is that they are all grounded in an ancient spiritual perspective. We do a lot in our programs to help you understand what ancient mystics believed. And whether you believe those things or not is up to you. But we want you to have an understanding of where this tradition comes from the standpoint of, what did these people believe? Why did they believe we should be doing astrology in the first place? Having that understanding is really transformational. So proud to offer that as a part of our programs. Hope you're having a great start to your week. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around. I'm excited to tell you about our upcoming program, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. This is our first year course in Hellenistic astrology, and it begins again this November. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the course, the format of the course, and how to register. So let's go ahead and get into it. What is this course about? Well, if you are not familiar, ancient Hellenistic astrology is the earliest and original form of horoscopic astrology. All of the subsequent forms and schools of astrology that have existed over thousands of years come from these philosophical and theoretical roots. And so what you're doing when you study Hellenistic astrology is you're going back to understand the why behind absolutely everything. Why were there ever such a thing as houses and signs in the first place? How were the planets ever assigned to rule various portions of the zodiac in the first place? How do you use the categories of essential dignity, and why were they ever created in the first place? If you're someone like me, you like to know the why behind things, because once you understand the why, then you know how to use things more intuitively. So really the point of Hellenistic astrology, in my opinion, is not so much about going back and becoming a traditional astrologer or, just being traditional for the sake of being traditional, as much as it is about grasping the roots of the entire system and paradigm. When you understand those roots, you have more intuition and understanding, which allow for you to be much more artful and fluid in the way that you speak the language of astrology. We call this class Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic because while it is about going back to understand the philosophical, theoretical, technical roots of the tradition, it's also about fluidly bridging those things with modern astrology and all of its most unique contributions. For example, modern astrology has given us so much psychological depth and personal depth. And so in a modern astrological setting, you're going to get the ability to explore your own character, your own psychology, and you're going to be able to utilize astrology for a process of healing and personal transformation. But when you pair that with ancient astrology, and it's almost like predictive karmic analytics, you really have a full toolkit to work with. And so that's also a great mission of ours at Nightlight, is to bridge ancient and modern forms, which is why we call the program Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. So that's just a little kind of overview of the program. If you want to know more about the specifics of the curriculum and of the syllabus, what I encourage you to do is go over to nightlightastrology.com, click on the courses page, go to the first year course, scroll down, and you'll see this over 12 months you'll learn about. And here you're going to see more of a detailed breakdown of the curriculum itself. I can promise you that if you've studied astrology in modern context, but you've never gone back to the ancient roots, while some of these topics may look familiar to you and you go, oh, I've already learned about that. Unless you've studied them from the Hellenistic perspective, I guarantee that you are not going to be familiar with this content. Hellenistic astrology is mind-blowingly new and interesting for most people. And if you've never studied it, again, don't assume that anything on this list is something you're going to be familiar with. In that way, the program is really ideal for a variety of different people, and I'll say more about that in a second. So what is the format of the course? Let's go to that next. Scroll down and you're going to see that the course includes 30 online webinars that I lead throughout the year. Over the course of a year together, I have 30 classes that are broken into different units of material. In between those classes, we have breakout study sessions with your course director and 2 TAs. They're going to lead you through Q&A sessions and tutoring sessions to make sure that you have a lot of support in between major units of study. In addition, we also have an interactive group forum discussion where you can ask questions year-round and get an answer within a business day in the student forum, where a lot of people also connect and build community. Lots of people in that forum also develop like little meetup groups outside of class. That's very common in all of our programs. It's a very community-loving, warm space where anyone's also welcome. Throughout the course, you're also going to find that for every lesson, if you're just there as a hobby student, you can just listen to the webinars. They're all recorded for you. So if you can't make the live webinars, everything is housed on the website as recordings. I'd say about 40 or 50% of our students are going to be following along at their own pace, whereas the other half might be attending the live webinars. But it's really kind of, if you can attend a few and then one week you got to be gone, the recordings are always there. You have lifetime access to everything in the course, so it's not a big deal. For every lesson as well, if you're someone who wants to go really, really deep, maybe you have the intention to practice professionally, this course is set up with an optional certification exam at the end from our school, from our program. So you can, if you want to build that resume and develop the credentials from our programs, you can do that, but it's optional, so you don't have to. And outside of every lesson, we have recommended reading. We have supplemental bonus content, all of which is optional, but it's there for people who might want a lot more, whereas some people will take the webinars themselves, and that'll be plenty. So it's really flexible in that way. Also, this is one program within 4 years of curriculum that are meant to go together. And so most people who come through our first year program will end up taking our second year program, where we develop forecasting and prediction and transit tracking techniques. Our third year program, which is aimed at counseling and psychology. So psychological counseling skills is our third year program. And then the Oracle Within, which is our exploration of the philosophical, spiritual roots of the divinatory oracular tradition of astrology. So there's a lot of material there. We also have another 1-year program in horary astrology for some people who want to add that predictive tool to their toolkit. So there's just a lot of material at Nightlight that this class is actually just one part of, which can be taken standalone, or for some people, they get into it, they're going to love it. You're going to hang out with us for 3 or 4 years worth of content. This program is ideal for a number of different types of students of astrology. I'll say that for starters. So let's see here. I'll stop sharing this. So we have there's a profile of the typical students who come through our courses. One is going to be people who just want a very guided introduction to ancient astrology because you've never had it before. Maybe you're only familiar with modern, and you want that guided, structured approach to learning traditional for the first time. Also, people who are brand new to astrology in general, there's no better place to start than at the roots of the ancient foundations. So whether you're a total beginner or just a beginner to Hellenistic, this is a great place to start. If you are someone who's been around astrology for a long time, but you've never had a guided, structured approach to Hellenistic astrology, again, this is a great place to start. I promise you, Hellenistic is very different than what you're familiar with, and you're going to need a guided and structured approach at some point in time. I also think for people who are looking for a lineage, which means not just a bunch of information, but a practitioner-specific based approach where you get to see a practitioner work with clients. You get to hear how a practitioner has prioritized different techniques and why. You're going to get a structured, spiritually grounded focus at Nightlight as well, where if you're looking for someone who practices astrology, but also values grounded everyday spiritual practice, that's Nightlight. If you want a community that's been in the industry for a long time now, this is our 16th year of teaching programs and guiding students through trainings. So all of those things, if they matter to you, this is a great place to study. It's a warm community atmosphere. It's spiritually grounded. It's focused. It's academically rigorous. It's going to provide you the appropriate preparation for practicing professionally, especially if you go through all of our programs. But also for those who are just curious and love astrology for your own personal interests, this is going to be a great place for you to learn and grow and thrive and feel like you have a lot of support around you in the curriculum, the teachers, the community, as you're developing, what might just be a personal interest or spiritual hobby. So that is who it's ideal for. Finally, how you register. You go over to the website. I'm going to take you back there. And it's at the bottom of the first year page. You're going to find that the early bird rate is in effect until October 24th. You can save significantly off the cost of the course when you use the early bird rate, where you can pay in full, or use an early bird installment rate plan. Both are going to save you off significantly off the cost of the course. But also at Nightlight, it has always been our mission to make sure that astrological education is accessible for everyone. So please, if you are someone who would love to take this course, but maybe you can only afford a small amount of tuition per month, use the tuition assistance. It is there. All you got to do is plot, you fill out the little form, you tell us your situation. If you're on a fixed income, if you're on a limited income, if you're part-time, if you're in between jobs, if you don't make a lot and you're on that fixed budget, we understand. We don't want people to hurt themselves trying to study something that is spiritual that we feel should be very accessible for everybody. So if you're someone who could use a little help to make this program happen, for whatever reason, maybe you're a single parent or you're on disability or you're retired or you're on a fixed income, whatever the case is, use that tuition assistance. Also, people in other countries who have extreme, exchange rates. We get it. So just use the tuition assistance and we'll be glad to make sure that the price point is accessible. For us, as a spiritual topic, we're a business at the end of the day, but we believe that this is a spiritual topic. And so accessibility has been a part of our model for 16 years now. We've never not had one of our training programs with affordable sliding scale-based prices for people who need it. So please take advantage of that. It's all there for you. I hope to see you in classes soon. And if you have any questions about the program whatsoever, direct them to us at info@nightlightastrology.com. And I hope to see you all coming up here in November. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.